Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to more KHANTENHNT. It's me,
KHANTENHNT.
Bestie Boy, and that's Digi Bro.
I'm right here.
There he is, over here, and we're talking about the new Konosuba movie, Konosuba Legend of Crimson, that came out in Japan a couple of months ago and just came to American theaters over the last 3 days for 2 shows.
This is one of those, like, I never thought I'd see the day kind of things.
That's exactly what I've been thinking the whole time. This has been dominating my thoughts, thinking about when I was a young boy, consuming my bootleg pirated piece of shit DVDs off of eBay, and just me and, like, Ben, like the one person I knew who also watched anime, commiserating about, isn't this show cool? I wonder if there's, like, any other shows like this out there in the fucking world. Meanwhile, now, there are just large releases of new contemporary anime movies in American movie theaters. Tons of fans there. It's crazy.
And not in, like, L.A. or New York. Like,
I'm in fucking Cincinnati, Ohio. Nobody lives here.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I mean, part of the reason when I first moved out of Virginia Beach just 2.5 years ago, like, part of my thinking was like, oh, nothing comes here. Like, we don't get any of these anime movies. I'd always be hearing about all these premieres in L.A. of all these new movies. And then all of a sudden, like, right after, like, I was lamenting in despair, suddenly G-Kids and Fathom Events started just bringing all this shit everywhere. Like, it's only ever 1 or 2 days, but it'll show at your local theater. You know, it's all over my town. So
it's incredible.
I don't know. Big go men to anybody who doesn't live anywhere near an anime theater or a theater that shows anime. But it's been a wonderful time, and like depending on the showing, it could be better or worse. The Konosuba showing I went to was very good, aside from the fact they started mad late. Nonetheless, it was picture quality was good, sound quality was good, and that's rarely the case. Crowd was laughing, of course, at absolutely everything that happened in the movie, which is fine. It's a funny movie. Most of it was worth laughing at. But yeah, the crowd was it was a packed theater for the second showing. So Konosuba, a big deal. Even here in the U.S., I think.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. I went to the first showing, and my theater was also... when I was buying my tickets like 2 days before, there were a couple of seats, so whatever, me and Michelle, there was only a couple of pairs left. But it was basically packed the whole time. And everyone was having such a wonderful time. And it was great hearing some of the people next to me discussing, like, oh yeah, so, so this show, like, this movie's coming out this season, like, next season, there's, like, another one by someone else. I can't even remember what was going on. But, like, these were clearly people who were dedicated fans and knew exactly what they were talking about, knew, like, the seasonal stuff, knew who was directing, knew the production company. They were like, oh, I knew for sure when they said, like, oh yeah, this isn't Studio Dean anymore. This is now JC staff. I was like, this person is educated. And by the way, those people turned out to be people I knew in my patron Discord. At least one of them.
Amazing.
One of them was a patron of mine. So what do you know?
Yeah, I actually ran into some of my old friends who I hadn't talked to in years.
Oh, that's great.
It was interesting
Konosuba's
too.
bringing everybody together. What a great experience.
But yeah, the crowd is mostly packed, and man, you threw so many things into my head because I was also now I'm thinking about JC Staff and Dean, which that also was like at the start of the movie. There's a JC Staff logo. I'm like, I thought, wait a minute, isn't this a Studio Dean production? But I think it's the same staff. I think pretty much the same people have been involved with Konosuba.
The art style is exactly the same, so I figured that's probably the case. Yeah.
I mean, this movie, just to finally start talking about it, really, is basically it could be considered like the third season. Like it's the third installment because it continues the story. It clearly is adapting from the novel. Another demon lord underling is taken on one of the
one of the generals.
Right. So this movie is important to the it's not just a fucking filler movie. It's like an actual sequel to season 2, which I think one of the voice actors even says in the overly long interview with the two with Kazuma and Megumi's voice actors that they played during the movie. Oh my god, that was so long. I was like, why?
We actually got there a little bit late, so I only saw the tail end of that. And I felt bad, but now I'm glad if it was... I mean, if it was like production staff, I would have felt bad. But since it's just voice actors, I mean, how much do I really care about what the voice actors think? Not particularly.
I mean, they were, they're kind of just doing the usual
It's fun. They're so into these characters. I mean, yeah, that's always the case with voice actors, but they're just like, you can tell these two are so fucking excited that they got these roles and that the show is so beloved. Yeah. But I mean, anyone would be, so it's an actor's dream, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't see the whole thing, but the Kazuma's actor was saying, like, this is my first movie role that I've been the main character in the movie. So, you know, yeah, definitely exciting. And all the voice acting in this movie is fantastic.
It sure was, buddy.
Every line is just on point. The comedy is done so well.
That's true. And the little things, the little, like, you know, the little, like, grumbles and, like, all for comedic senses. The comedic timing, not every single moment of the movie was, like, outright hysterical. There were some times taken for, like, you know, character development here, lore dumps there, but even despite that, for a comedy movie, sometimes in the middle it got a little bit, I don't know, a little bit calm in the waters of hilarity for a brief bit. But what was there was so lovingly developed and rich, and it really did feel like, I mean, this is the thesis to your point about this being sort of the season 3, which it kind of is. I mean, I've been noticing this trend for a while. I think this is the first of the actual so many anime, you know, taking a time away from making a season to make a movie. But, like, if this is the production values that we can expect, like, basically condensing down a story. Whoa. So you're telling me I can, in one sitting, consume an entire story. It's going to have higher general quality animation throughout the whole time, and it's going to have, like, higher production level values. I mean, what's the fucking downside of doing, like, everything this way? Let's do it forever. It was great.
It's way better than getting a filler movie, which is what I expected.
Yeah.
Like, there's countless filler movies for most shows, but, and I mean, this movie, I mean, it's Konosuba, so it's not like it's massively important that it continues the plot, but it was up to snuff of any of the best arcs in the show and developed in a package that felt paced correctly for a movie. Like, it felt as though they had converted, you know, a light novel into a film, and it worked surprisingly well. And, like, each scene individually, you were talking about the comedy, and there's such good, like, build-up over the course of each scene to a big crescendo funny scene, which is really how, like, a situational comedy should be. But it made me think about Cautious Hero, and how, like, my big complaint with that show was that it would try to, like, build on the same joke, but a lot of it would be unfunny until you get to that big moment. And this movie was not like that. It's like funny, oh shit, big funny, it keeps getting funnier the longer the scene goes on, you know? And then none of the scenes go on crazy long, none of the jokes are too repetitive, you know? Sure, you're going to be playing into some of the same jokes that these characters are known for, but the way that, like, a lot of anime movies tend to be, especially filler movies, which again, this thankfully isn't, is that it starts off by, like, having each character just do the thing they're known for, like, the most generic way possible. This movie does not do that. It goes right into comedy scenes, no feeling the need to, like, reintroduce the whole setting and characters, even though everybody is in this movie, like, basically every character in the show is in
to different degrees of importance. But yeah, I mean, that's true. They all show up. But
yeah, it was nice to see a movie that, like, was pretty much exactly as good as the show is at its best, you know? And, like, Konosuba as a TV show definitely has off moments, you know, like, not every episode is funny all the way through, not every arc is funny all the way through. You know, season 2 I remember having some rough spots, but like, the movie, nothing bothered me in this movie. Nothing I thought was boring, nothing I thought was, like, unfunny and groan worthy, you know? I was excited to see all the old characters. Some of them I even felt like I didn't get enough. Like, Aqua and Darkness don't get as much.
Very little roles. Yeah. Used for comedy.
It's clearly a Megumi arc, you know, and she's like the central character of the film.
Right.
Although it does a good job of spreading that out across other characters in her village, including Yun, all these other, you know, people who show up. Anyway.
Well, let me
you
just
talk about this movie.
Yeah, let me confess real quick. So we're, as you said, this is a direct continuation of the story. Clearly, I must confess, I love Konosuba, but I have watched 4 episodes of the anime, and that's it. Because
my god, you've only seen the first 4 episodes.
I thought I had watched, like, most of the show because I feel so much love for the characters. I'm one of these assholes. I didn't even realize how little of it I actually watched. When I was looking yesterday at, like, the description of the episode, I was like, I don't remember any of this. Oh god, I've only seen like 3.5 episodes of this fucking show. Back when we did the Weebcast in 2016, and
believable.
I am ashamed. I am a piece of shit. That's all there is to
Like,
it.
I just can't believe that none of this came up in the whole, like, you know, us planning to go see this movie and, like, discussing it as a thing we would do for KHANTENT.
It doesn't. It really doesn't matter. Is the thing, because while I familiarized myself with the plot points that I needed to know, they've beaten a couple of the demon generals. Okay, great. Like Yun, this character was on the poster. I didn't know who that was. I fucking Googled it. Got it. And
you didn't really need to know much. Like season 2 and season 1, it's all pretty the same. And you know they're still in the town. They live in a mansion. I don't know if that was in the first season. Did they live in a mansion?
Don't ask me.
You haven't even made it that far into the first season. God damn. Well, you know, which the mansion is even mentioned in the shown.
It's discussed. It's discussed. Yeah.
So.
Well, let me just say that as this is a comedy series, not like a fucking mystery, not like a fucking drama, like I felt like I basically missed nothing. The most important thing that I looked up was who fucking Yun was, but I didn't even need to know that because they tell you at the very beginning anyway. Right. But and this whole thing takes place in a new setting in the Crimson Demon Village anyway, and I mean, so thanks to that, I felt like I was like so. Let me just say to anybody else who maybe hasn't seen any of Konosuba, probably watching a couple episodes would be useful before going in, but you need to
know at least the premise.
You should know the premise. You should know the premise and watch episode 1 at least. You probably meet darkness. But you can jump in and because it's comedy, because it's fucking comedy. It feels like it's so rare to get a really funny anime. It feels extremely rare, and I just feel like honestly, before going into this movie, I was feeling a little bit like. I've heard some people like saying that Konosuba is actually worse than I've seen a couple of like analysis videos here and there about people picking apart Konosuba, but and you know what? And it got to me, and I'm like, I haven't seen that much. Maybe it does get to shit. I don't know. But then I see this movie, and I'm like, these people are fucking idiots, and I can tell that Konosuba. Again, I've only seen 4 episodes of the movie, but what I've seen is wonderful, and it's legitimately hilarious, and I can feel so much love poured into the craft of the show. It just fills me with joy, and I was laughing the whole fucking time, and if there's one thing I hate, it's cringy anime comedy where they're trying to do something and it totally flops. Not a single time did I feel a flop of a joke, which is so fucking rare for anime comedy, and I don't know. It's just this is how I described it. I was thinking of it. It felt like an effortless movie. I didn't have to this wasn't like some Tales from the Bottom shit where I'm like forcing myself to find things to enjoy because I'm an anime fan. I need to justify that I like anime. Here I go, trying to find good things. No, you just watch this movie, you just watch the show, and you're like, wow, sometimes good things are just good, and you can relax and enjoy them, and there's no need to pretend, there's no need to force yourself, and that's kind of the highest compliment I can give this movie. It would just allowed me to relax and feel like there is anime of worth in this world, in the comedy world and other ways, and what a wonderful feeling that is. It's a great time. Yeah. It was a great fucking time.
I mean, I knew we were in for something good from the very start when the first shot of the movie, you've got these goats just grazing.
Yeah.
A giant frog comes up and eats one of them, and then you see a giant explosion in the background, and only seconds later do you finally hear its effects, and you're just like, we have entered, let us go into this realm. This seems like a pleasant place to be.
God, it's great right from the start.
Like you said, one of the things that's always made Konosuba great is the weird feeling that everyone involved with it really likes it. And in the old show, the first season, I don't remember if season 2 was Dean or JC staff.
I think it was all Dean, but I could be wrong about that.
I'm fairly certain the same team did both, and the art direction and animation direction is very blooby. The characters are they move in kind of odd ways, and they're not always on model, but that's not the point. The way that they're drawn and the way that they move is always hilarious, and it's got this very odd feeling of movement. There's a scene in this movie particularly where Aqua is grilling all these orcs, and she's basically in the camera, talking to the camera, and she's kind of over animated in this really weird, goofy way that is just what I'm talking about. And it's just such a unique feeling. everything about the designs and the animation feels different, feels uniquely funny. Like these people really wanted to make a mark on it. And then the voice acting feels the same way, where like everybody seems to be having so much fucking fun. There's so many times in this movie where I feel like the voice actors were just told like, go completely all out. Like don't hold, like if you're going to scream, just scream as obnoxiously, as wildly, and as long and sustained as you can, you know, like just go at it. So that we can cut at the funniest moment in that scream, you know, and it'll be, there's lots of scenes that like ratchet up and higher tension until they explode. And then there's like a, you know, Konosuba little,
the little bumpers,
they do the things.
Yeah.
The little bumpers from the show are in the movie, and they work really well.
I enjoyed all of those. You know, the moment I truly, cause, I mean, if it isn't clear, I loved this fucking movie. It was a wonderful time. It was great. But the moment that, like you said before at the beginning, I felt like the crowd laughed a little more easily than I laugh at stuff.
Oh, you know,
mean, that's
it was funny.
Yeah.
Because as soon as people started laughing right at the start of the movie, I was just like,
they're like, an explosion! An explosion! There it is, guys!
There was one dude like kind of in front of me who was just like, he had one of those laughs. It's like, and it's like everything made this dude laugh. But you know, I just kind of ignored it and just enjoyed the movie, and then eventually I was laughing. And
right, it feels good.
By the end, I'm laughing as much as everybody else because the movie is funny.
Let me tell you, the moment I knew this was a work of true quality was like the first joke, whatever. It's like the setup for the thing, you know, when they go home, they return back to the inn, whatever, after their day of fucking up questing. And, you know, Yun runs up and blah, blah, blah. They're like, oh, hey, what's up, Yun, blah, blah, blah. And then she's like, Kazuma, I need you to impregnate me. And the shot of his head turned away from the camera, and then he just turns to the camera, and the shine goes on in his eye. I mean, and the whole theater burst out laughing, and me too, and me fucking too, because that was a wonderfully directed shot, and just the comedic timing is so fucking good. I forget the name of the director, but he's a hell of a guy.
That was also my first real laugh at the movie, so I think we're on the same wavelength here. We probably laughed at the same exact moments throughout, which I gotta say, like, this movie, if you, I mean, obviously you probably are not going to watch this movie if you don't care about Konosuba, but I think whether or not you like this movie is just 1-to-1. Do you like Konosuba? It's the next one, you know, like it is just a continuation. You're going to love the movie. Like I really wasn't let down. There's the whole midsection. Actually, let me talk about one of the things I love about this movie and about Konosuba in general is the lack of inertia that happens in the plot, where every time it seems like things are going to get rolling, they stop. And that's the funny part, because then it leaves you wondering, where the fuck are we going now? You know? Like, it sets up... So this movie, at the beginning, Yun... well, I don't want to spoil too much, but basically, there's a plot that is set into motion that's like, the world's going to end if we don't do this. And then they quickly find out that's not the case. Then they find out that nothing in the initial that they initially thought was the case was the
bullshit. 100%.
It was all bullshit. So now they're just hanging out in this village, and then it's like, oh shit, the Demon King is or one of his generals is leading an army on the village. So now we're like, oh shit, here's the plot. Nope, the village destroys it in a second. So it's like, okay,
you think it's going to be some Seven Samurai bullshit, but again, no.
It's really not until like right before the climax that like we actually have a like the plot is the climax of the movie. Up until that point, it's basically dicking around, and
it really is just exploring the village. I mean, because it's a set piece for comedy. It's a village of Chunies. How are they gonna, you know, what's gonna happen here? What's the backstory of Megumin and Union, where we can work in more comedy? And that's what like the bulk of the midsection is, and it's great, as well as meeting the general and doing funny stuff with her.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep myself a little bit spoiler free, just because like with a comedy movie, I don't want to ruin the jokes if you haven't seen it yet. But you know, yes, the main thrust of the movie is they go to Megumin and Union's village, the village of the Crimson people, which like it's funny because I always knew that they were supposed to be these Crimson mages or whatever they're called, Crimson something.
Crimson Demons is their name.
The Crimson Demons. Well, like, I just assumed that they all were fire users, not that Megumin was just the only one who's obsessed with explosions and they could use all kinds of magic. I somehow I hadn't like realized that would be the case. But yeah, in this magic, everybody's like ridiculously OP, crazy magicians, but they're all also Chunies in their own unique ways. And like one of the funniest things about the village is that it's just a regular village where everybody happens to be highly powerful. So it's not like everyone in the it's not a village populated by wizards per se. It's a village where like the baker is a wizard, where the clothes manufacturer is a wizard. So they all have like these random regular jobs. They're just like regular people who have crazy world-ending magic. And Megumin, who is like a dedicated sorcerer, is the weakest of them all, which makes it even more hilarious.
That's true. I mean, she's only the weakest because of her particular brand of psychosis and her, addiction to explosions. But nonetheless, I mean, and again, I won't spoil it, but like, there's a little bit of backstory given to. It doesn't kind of explain why Megumin is so into explosion, but like her and Yunyun's like their magical backstory, which actually ties into both kind of game mechanics as well as their like emotional connection between the two. And I felt the way that eventually culminated in like the final battle and I don't know the stuff leading up to that with their like rivalry from childhood was kind of beautiful. And I even in this dedicated comedy movie, there was still stuff like that I found really charming and really really loved.
It was surprising because, I mean, you haven't seen the show for the most part, but Yunyun, who's only really in season 2, she's never been explored very much up until this movie. Like, she's kind of just, I mean, the main facet of her character is that she has no friends and she's very easy to make fun of, So, like, everybody just shits on her relentlessly, basically, but she's just, like, a good girl who's good at magic, who wants to help, and nobody cares.
In my research, I happened to find one clip of Megumin just slapping her tits and berating her for having tits that were unreasonably large, which, fair.
So Yunyun gets like her first real character development in this movie.
Okay.
With that backstory of her and Megumin. So that was it was definitely interesting getting to meet all the people in the village. There were some who I was like, I want to spend more time with these people or know if there's more to them. Like there's a scene where they go to the school and the 3 like bitch girls with gigantic tits show up.
Yeah.
But they don't really do anything else. So would have liked to see maybe find out what their deal is.
I thought they were going to do some sort of like Hogwarts parody because their outfits kind of look sort of like Gryffindor outfits. I don't know if they were doing anything. Nothing much comes of it, but nonetheless, I liked all of those guys for what they were.
I love the scene where they're just wandering around the village too. We get it. Like, by the way, this village, like when they're like, "Oh, we're gonna go to the Crimson whatever village," I was like, okay. It's probably going to be some dinky little RPG town. No, it's like a full-blown village, It looks very beautiful, and it's set in the mountains. It's got this lots of pinks in the color palette. It's just a gorgeous-looking village that I had a fun time exploring.
And not to mention, there's, like, weird mythical objects scattered around that have intense, like, lore value that are just... I mean, I won't say it, but, like, the lack of gravitas that the citizens of the village give to some of these, like, insane things that are just littered around the village was just like another great source of hilarity and ties into the climax and all. And speaking of which, I just wanted to say, maneuvering around spoilers here, it's just that when Kazuma's little arc he has with the demon general Sylvia when she shows up, and like his I'll just say his love of her giant titties and the ramifications that come from that. I don't know if you noticed, Digi. I felt like this was something there was kind of taken to its logical extreme at the end of the movie, and I felt like this was like a completion to an arc of how Kazuma and she end up at the end of the movie. And I don't know, the whole culmination of that, it's talking in these kind of general terms about jokes is not doing them justice, but trust me, like the point, I want to give the movie credit for that kind of what I felt was like a setup and a payoff just in like a hilarious situation that was
we could just go into a spoiler section, right? Because, like,
okay.
Is anybody going to listen to this whole podcast if they haven't seen the movie?
Probably not. Probably not.
So, all right, you already know our recommendation, our general thoughts. From now on, we're going to be talking about spoilers. So
let me pick up where I left off.
Click away.
There you go. There's your warning. So just to iron that point down, it's at the beginning when he meets Sylvia, the female general, whatever. She's got these big honking tits. She tries to kidnap Kazuma to get leverage so she can take over the village or whatever, and she's got him buried between her tits, and he feels so at home, he immediately turns to betray all his allies. Fuck these guys. They've been too ungrateful. I mean, already fucking hilarious. He gets kidnapped. They end up doing... And, like, this is the start of, like, a little relationship arc between Kazuma and Sylvia with, of course, the hilarious gay panic moments where we find out that she actually has a penis. Oh, no. What does a man to do? But I still like your tits. And then it's at the end, after she's become, like, a giant mecha weapon because she's a chimera, she fuses with the mage masher, the mage killer, whatever it is. And like the culmination of this joke, it's like the setup at the beginning of that, and then the payoff is he fuses with her too between her tits as the giant mech warrior, and then they face off together with like the power of their love, which is obviously bullshit, against the whole village trying to stop them from killing them all. I mean, the situation was just, I don't know, it's not something that you get an instant big laugh out of, but the setting is so ridiculous on its face, and it feels like, I don't know, like it's like what's the word? It's like music. It rhymes, you know. It's like poetry, and I don't know.
And it fits in with this this kind of background narrative throughout the show that Kazuma wins by being a bad guy. Like he ultimately he like tries to be a good guy, but in the end, it's his mind that is able to conjure all these terrible thoughts. That's what gets him out of things. So like at the end, he realizes like, oh, she's in love with me. I can use her. Yeah, you know, like,
he uses
that's how he beats the villain
to win by betraying and being cruel to a maiden's pure desires. That's fucked up. And tell me if I have this right, Digi, because I was trying to... It's mentioned several times that, like, Kazuma thinks he might be able to, like, earn a huge amount of money working with that other Vitalis demon guy, whatever. Was that correct, that the idea behind that was he's going to pull a Yesterday, like that movie, and he's going to pawn off all the ideas he remembers from his original world, like, as his own, and sell them into this museum or something to make tons of... That's the idea?
Case.
Yeah, okay.
He's selling... Because the demon guy he was selling it to, like him and Wiz are both like, you know, former demon lord guys or whatever. Right. Like I think the mask dude, honestly, I'd completely forgotten about him. Like until he showed up in the movie, I was like, oh fuck, who is this guy again? Like he shows up in season 2. And I think he's just like, he's a really powerful bad guy, but they convince him to be on their team. I don't know how. Maybe because he's like a merchant dude, and they convince him they can make him more money. I don't really remember.
Yeah.
But,
okay. All right.
You know, he's a money guy, as you could tell. But yeah, so the backing plot of this movie is that Kazuma thinks he's going to make a shitload of money by selling future technology ideas, I guess. And of course, you know, he starts making all these decisions on the basis that he already has that money, so that's gonna come back to bite him.
The way that ties into when he meets Megumin's extremely impoverished parents, and they find out that he's got potentially some money on the way, and so they immediately attempt to force him to breed with their daughter. And I don't know. I love the little joke.
Who's like 12 or 13?
I mean,
Megumin is definitely a child.
It was them being defensive, but I love the one little line when like he's just talking to like their even younger daughter who's like 6, and they're like, no matter how much money you give, we won't sell her. And he's like, that was not in the cards. But I mean, meeting them and those scenes. Now, if I had one. This wasn't bad, but like the one thing that kind of stuck out to me as I think back on the movie as perhaps dragging out a little bit long was the like situations of him in the house being like this. There are two distinct scenes where he's locked in the room with Megumin, and 2 scenes of like, you know, him doing... I loved some of the animation, some of the specific jokes in those scenes, but that part felt like perhaps a little bit more dragged on. Maybe condense or cut out one of those scenes or something. I don't know. That was the one moment that I was like, we could maybe have cut out a few minutes of this and tightened it up a little bit.
Still funny, though. The fact that her mom wanted her to fuck him so badly was pretty great.
And, you know, I didn't realize that he was the one who had frozen the wall to make it cold, so they would have to get in the bed together. But that was funny too.
Yeah. So that's like the sort of midsection of. It's really funny. This movie feels shorter than hell because like you start off with basically a setup period, then we end up in the village for that period, and then it just kind of the climax just kind of happens, and then we're in the climax for a while. And it's funny because this is one of those movies where like Japanese movies, especially anime movies, tend to have extremely long climaxes. And there's a moment where the climax started, and I was like, oh shit, we're already at the end of the movie. It doesn't feel like it's been 70 minutes or, however long would be before the climax normally. And then the climax was wrapping up, and I was like, oh my god, it's not going to have... And then, of course, the villain gets revived.
It goes to the second level,
goes
baby.
For another 10, 15 minutes.
I was so happy when that happened. We'll go into that in a little more detail. But
well, and it's funny because most of the time I hate that in movies, but in this one, they just kept finding... I mean, they found new reasons to keep the movie going. It never felt like purely... like, there's a lot of characters kind of running around in and out of battle throughout this battle, and this is a common thing in Konosuba. Like, the final battles of each arc tend to be these big fracases with everybody involved, running around all over the place, coming up with plans, figuring out how they're going to finally stop this big monster. But, like... there wasn't too much of just, like, characters running in different directions and stuff. There was a little bit of it that bothered me a little bit. But, the fact that there were so many characters that had something to do, something new to contribute to the situation, some new little piece of emotional thing to be tied up here and there, Aqua and Kazuma get aligned together, Darkness gets apart, Yun and Megumin get their whole big finale after Megumin's... Like, it already would have been the most hilarious, perfect ending that Megumin's sister... defeats the villain, but then she comes back and we get a whole second, even bigger, better, fucking more emotional climax. So it was like, fuck, 2 for 1,
That was such a wonderful moment. I was feeling a little sad. I was feeling a little bit like, oh, this seemed really obvious. They use Megumin's explosion to whatever. It gets loaded into this, like, ancient secret weapon. It all felt very simple, but exactly as you said, that was all... It happens. It seems like they beat him, but it's a misdirect, and then she comes back, and we do have the real final boss.
Well, and that's the genius of it, is that they made it feel like that first ending would have been justified.
It was very epic already, for sure.
Yeah.
In most
It was
shows.
already a huge moment. It's they found the gun. They did the callback. It turned out, like, oh, there was a problem. They fixed the problem. Megumin basically powered the gun. Just her little sister fired it. Aw, what a hilarious... Nope. Misdirect. The true way that a Konosuba arc ends is with Kazuma doing some fuck shit to somebody.
With some ultimate black pills dropped on all of us in the audience. Love is not real. It'll only get you hurt and killed by people who want to betray you. Don't fall for it, kids. It's a meme. That's what I took away from this movie, anyway.
The fucking scene where the villain transforms when she comes back to life was crazy. That was an awesome animation, which sold me on the transition into the next part of the climax, because I was starting... Like, so the villain... this was fascinating, because this is like lore shit. She's like crossing the river Styx to meet the other 2 generals who they've already killed. And then... they start, like, dragging her under the water. But I guess she assumably, like, morphs with them and comes back from the river Styx somehow.
Yep.
And, like, morphs with all the technology, all the other bosses, and now she's, like, the ultimate form. And the transformation sequence is sick.
It was pretty dope.
Shit was crazy.
I didn't quite get why she was... Like, it's not like their bodies were there, but whatever. It doesn't matter. It was kind of... metaphorical. She pulled him back from beyond the afterlife or something. I don't exactly know why, like, mechanically speaking, she was able to do that, but it's fine. Who cares? It made for a great set piece, and the ultimate battle at the end was so cool. I didn't know, by the way, that Kazuma, like, the fact that he dies in this situation, I did not expect and did not realize is something that he had done many times in season 2, apparently. But I found out afterward that
he does die a handful of times throughout the series. I think there's like a limit to how much he's supposed to do it, but
okay, good to know.
Apparently, he can be brought back from like cinders. Maybe if he's completely evaporated, he can't be brought back.
But I mean, he was personally, like, right in his chest, pierced by, like, the most powerful attack you've probably ever seen in the series. Like, this combination explosion. Like, the entire village's magic was channeled into this one attack that Megumin and Yun did together. So, I mean, if anything's gonna vaporize you to ashes, I would assume it would be this attack, but maybe not. I don't know. Seemed pretty rough.
One thing I want to talk about with regards to this movie, especially Konosuba in general, but this movie really goes in on it, is how good Konosuba is at being problematic.
Oh yeah.
Because Konosuba frequently, I guess, has rape jokes. There's no other way to put it. There's a bunch of rape jokes in this movie. Rape is a comedy scenario in this film.
Oh yeah.
It starts with Kazuma getting attacked by a giant army of female orcs, because we learned that in this world, all the male orcs are dead, apparently, and the female orcs are the only ones left, and they want to breed very badly. So they just chase down any man they see of any race and try to fuck his brains out.
That moment where Darkness realized that all male orcs, all the giant, big, thick cock rape orcs were wiped out, and she instantly falls, like I don't even know what the word is. She passes out from sheer sadness at existence, where she won't get gang fucking raped by all these orcs at the same time. She doesn't want to live in that world. That was so fucking funny. That was hilarious. That was great. It was the best joke I've ever seen with Darkness. It was incredible.
So Darkness is sad because she won't get raped. Kazuma is sad because he will get raped. And they stop the orcs, but like, what I love about this scene is that Kazuma is so traumatized, he just goes on crying and wailing for like for the next few minutes of the movie. And like, this movie, Konosuba does this a few times, where it will have something really bad, like really sincerely bad, happen to the characters, but because the characters are so unsympathetic and so stupid most of the time, that like in the end you're just kind of like, yeah, I mean, whatever, no big, like, I remember there was a scene in season 1 of Konosuba, I don't know if you got this far, but there's this one scene where they do something to Aqua, where they like trap her in a cage in the water, trying to like use her as bait for something, and she's like traumatized by it horribly, and she just won't stop crying for like 5 minutes, and nobody cares at all. They're just like, yeah, whatever, that dumb bitch deserves it.
That's
it was so funny.
That's the thing. The thing that I love uniquely, I don't know, I used Aqua as like an icon of mine on Discord and various other places for a while, and sometimes people would say like, Nate, why do you like Aqua so much? Isn't she like, one of these like ungrateful women who you hate so much, or blah, blah, blah. But it's like, no, you don't understand. Aqua represents like the punishment of trifling thoughts. All trifling thoughts are embodied in Aqua, and they receive their just desserts. And the catharsis you feel by watching Aqua suffer vicariously for all the evils we know in the world by people like her, it feels great. It feels, and like Kazuma, I mean, episode 1, where Aqua is like talking down so viciously to Kazuma. She's like, I'm a goddess, fuck you, you're just one of my piece of shit pawns. You died, like I'm just gonna laugh at your life, lamowing at your life right now, etc. And he, undermines her whole goddess thing by wishing that she would come to the world with him. And you just don't pity her as she's bawling her eyes out, because she's so embarrassing. She's so conceited. She's so vain. Everything about her is horrible. But you know what? And then it does this very important thing. There's a glimmer. You see in episode 1, during the famous montage that we discussed in that Weebcast or whatever, there's that little glimmer that like, oh, Aqua actually, she might be willing to work to like improve her station. She kind of enjoys menial labor, and so like, oh wow, maybe this character who's so bad could become better one day. And like, all the characters have their positive little bits like that, and it gives you hope for the future, while we can just feel, we can indulge in watching like retarded people be punished for exactly how retarded they are. And the whole thing, it just feels wonderful. And that's why I love Aqua so much. She that's what she represents to me.
I absolutely love her for similar reasons. And there's a great Aqua line at the end of this movie when they're having a picnic, and she's like, come get this food I prepared or whatever. And he's like, didn't you just take that from like the food they made for us? And she's like, yeah, but I selected this stuff, so therefore I made lunch.
That's what I'm talking about. I love that shit. It's just sprinkled in there. They don't focus on it. It's not like a big epic like, whoa, that's so wacky, you would do that, Aqua. And they just brush right by it. And when it's just so much flavor, so much richness in the character. Like earlier in the movie, you probably saw when he thinks during the initial conversation where he thinks he's going to breed with Union or whatever to make like their son who's going to be overthrow the Demon King or whatever, which turns out to be a lie, obviously, as we said before. But like, he isn't shocked when he realizes like, oh, I'm not going to get to fuck Union right now, and like a conversation is going on between Kazuma and like the other characters, Union in the group, while like Aqua, like weirdly in the background, like in her own like background animation, is like walking around like a weird like maid or a hostess, and is like pulling up his pants, is like buckling his belt. It's like she's like doing her own little activity while this other conversation is happening. I don't know, that scene is like enchanted me because it was so I I mean, this doesn't seem like it fits Aqua's character. Maybe there's been some character development since I last saw her, but regardless, it was just something about it was hilarious that this would be happening while these characters are discussing like, oh, I guess I'm not gonna pound some semen into this bitch after all and poosh out a baby. Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, I wouldn't say anything changes about her character, but I do think stuff like that is in character for her. Almost like she mindlessly does these little tasks. And I mean, in that case, also, she's pulling up Kazuma's pants because he's fucking in his underwear and she doesn't want him to be anymore. But, like...
I guess so.
Like, what part of the whole thing with, like, the sexual... Like, the rape jokes and stuff. Yeah. Like, it ties into what you were saying about why Aqua's so good, which is that the show, you know, it's making jokes out of these like rapey situations, but the joke is it is in fact at the expense of the attempted rapist, you know?
Of course.
And when Kazuma, because in this movie, Kazuma basically has a, he has like a test of is he rape man or not. Like, so
he's given a license to rape, and is he going to cash that in or not? Who will say?
Because at the start of the movie with Yun, she's like, you know, he thinks she wants to fuck him. When it turns out she doesn't, he's still in like, but I'm horned up, I'm ready to go, you know. Then it's like, oh, you got to put your pants on, bro. You lost your chance, and it's just like, fuck. So then with Megumin, it's like her mom locks him in a room with her, basically telling her, fuck my child, you know?
Yeah.
and he's like pacing around trying to like logic his way through, like, obviously I shouldn't, but there's all these good reasons I should. Wait, what am I thinking? Like, obviously I can't. But then like he tries to kiss her while she's asleep. And of course she wakes up and they subvert the expectation by not having her like freak out and hit him or anything. It's only through the progression of the conversation where, you know, he eventually makes a fool of himself and she runs off, you know. But it's like he's just like barely a good enough guy not to fuck his friend in her sleep, you know, like just barely. And that's why I love what the show is like sort of willing to say. Yes. Like willing to have the character do that, which I mean, I guess a lot of anime does, a lot of fan service shows, but like this one has a feeling about it like the situation is supposed to be wrong in the context of the movie, you know, like it's not meant to be exciting for us as viewers. It's kind of like we're watching the angel and devil on this man's shoulder, not literally, but like, you know, figuratively, as he tries to decide like what is the best course of action in the situation. And you know what you want him to do, which is to not make a huge mistake, but you know he's going to make a huge mistake. So, you know, just the joy is in watching it all unfold and the realism that it's presented with. That, like, it's not, you know, again, when there's a joke about Kazuma almost getting raped by a bunch of orcs, but it has a legitimate effect on him, you know?
It does.
He's crying, he's distraught, he's not okay after this happens, but it's presented in a way that is somehow funny. And I know that there are... This show is like... I'm sure there's plenty of people who would not find this shit funny, you know? Plenty of people who would be like, yeah, rape jokes, not funny.
That's
not a funny
right.
subject
That's
matter.
their right.
But I mean, I think it's the fact that it's, you know, that it's like a real thing portrayed in a almost realistic but funny way that makes it even funnier. Like, it's even funnier that it's wrong, that it's fucked up, that it shouldn't be a joke, but they managed to make it a joke. That's what makes it so funny.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I mean, that whole scene was so wonderful to me, of like Kazuma litigating within his own mind whether or not I should make any moves on Megumin while she's asleep or whatever. And what do they say? It's like only the jester, right, is allowed to tell the king the truth. Everyone else has to lie to that was the point of like a court jester. That's the point of humor in general, to be able to raise like taboo topics or whatever in a funny way, but maybe be poking at some like truths about human nature. So like, I mean, when you're in a situation and there's like a hot girl who you'd like to have sex with, you would like to have sex with her, you're probably going to be like, ooh, how can I like make this thing happen? Now, in a situation like this, we know what's good, we know what's bad, but like the urges are there, right? We can accept that human beings have urges and desires to do things, but then you don't do them because you go through the same process Kazuma's going through right here, and you're like, okay, that'd be pretty fucked up if I did that, dude. And acknowledging that is It's just it's a form of like sincerity and legitimacy, and I think it speaks to something real about the human condition when we bring up things like that in a perfectly reasonable way, as was shown, I think, in like all these scenes. Frankly, I think a far more problematic scene, if that's the standard we're using, is in the scene where we see Kazuma like seemingly almost get raped by all the female orcs, because the show absolutely kind of focuses in a comedic way on like, lol, look how fucked up Kazuma is. If anything, is like making light of like someone's victimhood. It was 100% that scene. But so my point is like speaking. I think this is why the comedy of Konosuba works so well for me, because it feels like it's touching things that are like legitimately fine. Like a lot of people recently didn't like Dave Chappelle's new speech or new comedy special, or like I think I watched Bill Burr's for a similar reason, and I think it's because we're in a world now where a lot of people are a little bit sensitive about things, and they kind of want to avoid the topics. I don't even know about what specific thing I'm talking about, but like back in the day, like for example, the things that happened in this movie were kind of the equivalent of like Daniel Tosh's old joke about where he's in a theater, he was just talking to the audience, and he said, what should I joke about? Someone yells out, rape. And he says, what's funny about rape? And some woman in the audience yells out, nothing. And he says, in response to this heckler in the audience, he says, wouldn't it be funny if 5 guys raped you right now? To this audience. And like, he's been pilloried for this joke. But like, that's kind of the same joke we're making about Kazuma, like in this fucking anime right now. Like that would be ridiculous. It's over the top. It's silly, and it's kind of just making light of something that we know is horrible to speak to these larger truths. More so in Konosuba than in that instance. But I don't know. I'm just talking about comedy in general. I am a huge fan of all kinds of fucked up comedy, and Konosuba is absolutely on that turf in like everything it does. So, but you know what? I don't actually hear that many people ever get mad or take issue with the kind of stuff that I've seen in Konosuba, which is kind of surprising to me. Which makes me wonder if
it's surprising to me too. Like I thought, having watched all of it, I mean, these kind of jokes have always been there, and I've always been a little surprised that it's not brought up more. Maybe people who would be bothered by it just don't watch the show. I mean, it's also like a fan service heavy, like there's a lot of things that would turn people off from Konosuba, I think, sexually. But the fact that it has sexual humor that is actually funny. Like, there's tons of anime that do these types of jokes, but not as well as this show does. And it's all because of that realism and that humanity, that the characters are allowed to, they make decisions on the basis of their personalities, not on the basis of like what makes sense in the script going forward.
That's true. And like, perfect example, it's like take a notice of like what Konosuba is and what our main characters are. Like I forget the name of the guy, but in the movie, Konosuba or Kazuma, like when the demon lord general asks him like, who are you? Like, what is your name, knight, who's gonna challenge me? And he give like, what's it, Mizukami, like another isekai dude who's like an actual hero who's not Kazuma, because Kazuma is this scared little fuck up. He says, no, don't fight me, fight this other guy. And that guy, I mean, I googled him afterward, that guy is clearly designed to represent like what an isekai normal guy would be like the hero with like legendary sword.
Okay, if it's who I'm thinking it is, he's not an isekai guy. He's just a guy who's like he's just like a very popular warrior who lives in Axeltown.
Fair enough.
Who like they have beef with, basically. Like, he's a character in mostly the first season, I think, if I'm remembering right.
Regardless,
if that's what he was referencing.
Fair enough, but regardless, the point is just that like our characters are fucked up, flawed, retarded, backwards ass, defective people. And that is what Konosuba is about to me. It's about fucked up, terrible people and learning don't be like these people. Look at all the horrible things that we're subjecting them to. You don't want to do this shit. Be, I don't know, better in some ways. We can make fun of everybody, good or bad, but I mean, I think there's a lot to learn about all the horrible vices our characters have and to not let them get to you.
I mean, and that's another thing. Like, anime like this, it exists to play around in that space, right? Like, let's say that in an episode, like, Kazuma is he's being seduced by some kind of, sexual thing he wants to do that is, of course, going to lead him astray. And, like, you watch the episode, and, like, for you, as an audience member, there's no consequences to enjoying the sexy things you get to see, but you get to see what happens to Kazuma, which is always going to be bad. So it's like, again, the anime is a chance for you to indulge something that even the anime is telling you, if you did it, would be bad.
It's almost like this is the point of fiction and telling stories, to see in narrative what could happen and things without having to suffer the consequences. Imagine that.
All right, well, is there anything else you want to say about this movie? I think I've pretty much run through what I've got.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. We could talk about specific jokes all day, but really just a ringing endorsement to, do you like comedy? Do you like good things? If so, go watch the Konosuba movie, The Crimson Boys, whatever it's called. And it was a great time. It was an absolutely wonderful movie, and I could not recommend it highly enough. Best thing I've seen in quite a while when it comes to anime.
I think it would be dead easy to just... I mean, if in the future anybody's marathoning Konosuba, this movie is season 3, basically. Like,
no doubt.
Watch season 1, watch season 2, watch the movie. It's all consistent. It's exactly like... I thought this movie was as good as the best parts of Konosuba consistently, which is not true of the shows. They're not consistently at their top of their game.
Right,
the movie is. So as far as I'm concerned, it's probably the best individual Konosuba piece, though it doesn't have the most legendary jokes that came from the show or anything like that. And, obviously it relies a lot on the fact that so much has been set up. But
I don't know if anything will ever top episode 1 of Konosuba. Was such a 10 out of 10 episode of an anime.
Wait till you get to the succubus episode towards the end of the first season. I think you'll appreciate that one.
I gotta get there.
Because in the world of Konosuba, there are legal brothels run by succubus who are insanely hot.
How interesting.
They're all over the place.
How interesting. Yeah. I guess I have one final thing to say about this show, which is just that if you want to hear a more ironed out, condensed version of my thoughts, you should head over to Best Guy Ever, where I have a edited video that will be coming out there in a couple days on this very anime.
Shit.
And I think boys and girls will enjoy it. So stop by.
Did you already write it and you're already working on it even though you still haven't seen the show?
That's okay. My not having seen the show is a core facet of this video, so you will all be able to appreciate, enjoy, and mock. I have already written it, recorded it, and currently editing it, so it'll be out
And
pretty
will
soon.
people who already watched this video still have something new to gain from your Weagawa?
It'll be like 8 minutes long, so absolutely yes. Okay. It's worth the
Excellent.
time.
Cool. Well, check that out on his channel. I'm DigiBro. All of our links are in the description. I'm probably going to put up... well, it might even be up before this video, so we'll go ahead and say check to see if I have released the big explaining the KHANTEHNT channel video. I wrote a video that's just like basically a primer on like what the plan is, what we're trying to do with this channel, and look at the schedule on the About page if you want to know what we're talking about next. Should be Luigi's Mansion in 4 days, right? Are you gonna be done with it by then? Because I have to beat the whole fucking game.
Hang on, we got our Anime Tuesdays. Aren't we doing an anime first, and Luigi's Mansion would be? Or do you want to? Whatever.
Well,
I'll do it.
If we wanted to do that, Luigi's Mansion would have had to been the one we recorded today.
Fine.
So Luigi's
Mansion
around.
Next. That's fine. I'll be done. I'll be done. No worries.
Yeah, I don't think anybody has yet fully. In the mindset of anime on Tuesdays, I gotta go to the KHANTEHNT channel on Tuesday to watch anime videos.
What? A Tuesday video game video? I don't want to watch this bullshit. Unsubscribe.
Yeah. I mean, just to explain to the audience, it was gonna be Luigi's Mansion, then Konosuba the movie, but it just made more sense to do it the other way around, especially because I haven't played Luigi's Mansion yet. So. Yeah, we'll probably do that next in 4 days, and after that, it'll be whatever it says on the schedule. So check that out.
Which is on the About page, right? That's where they go to see that?
Yes, the About page. There's also links in the description.
And good news, everybody. We are fucking monetized now, baby, so let's rack up some fucking watch time!
This video's gonna have fucking ad breaks.
So many fucking ads.
Sat through them.
Oh, fuck yeah, dude. I cannot fucking wait to watch those ads and make these boys some money. That's what you should be saying.
Everybody.
See you next time, everybody.
See you on Tuesday.
Bye. KHANTEHNT!